Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm Stephen Peterson. I got my acorn, so we're going to talk about possibilities. We're going to talk about patterns. We're going to talk about habits and routines because I'm trying to help you break through. I'm trying to help you get someplace that you didn't think you could go. But you don't need a special friend. Oh, I got a friend in high places. Well, that's wonderful you have that. I don't. Man, I do, but maybe not in every high place. But I'm telling you, a pattern, a routine, a habit is a great equalizer. You can take somebody with almost unlimited talent and unlimited abilities and bad patterns, and you can outwork them, you can outperform them, you can outshine them. What it is getting more focus in what you want. And it all starts with our habits and our patterns. Solomon was quoted as being the wisest man ever on the face of the earth. And he said, the habits and the patterns and the routines that your kids see in you, they'll keep doing even when they're old. Now, wouldn't that be nice if they did what we told them to do instead of what they watched us do? So in other words, our kids watch us do things that are wise, that are smart, that are just cutting edge, and they watch us do things that, if we had it on tape, the village idiot would be ashamed of it. So one pattern. Listen, a pattern, a routine, a habit is a great equalizer. And what I'm holding here is an acorn, because you change one pattern and somebody would look at your life and say, what's the big deal? Well, they don't see the oak tree that's going to grow out of that one pattern change. I was a child of the 60s, man. I liked the music. I wanted to wear a flower in my hair and go to San Francisco and all that stuff. But in the 60s and late 60s and early 70s, there wasn't much room for honor. There wasn't any room for honor in the political system, the educational system. But I didn't even have honor from my mother and father. And the first pattern in my life that I became aware of that I needed to change, I needed to start honoring them. Well, that came to me when I was broke, busted, and disgusted. I believe I had a dollar bill. That's all the cash I had, and nobody would extend me any credit. Credit was a different beast then. So I had a dollar, and I went to a little, the place is still there in the mouth of the Ogden Canyon. It's still there. And this place had gifts and cards, but it had little tiny potted plants, and they were 79 cents, and you got a card with it for free. And it was Mother's Day, or close to Mother's Day. So I wrote on there, Mom, I sure do love you. Thanks for everything, Steve. And I put it in the little envelope. Card was free. Plant was 79 cents. I got 21 cents left over. I give it to my mother. She reads the card and she starts to cry. Why are you crying? She thought I was dying. I had been very kind as a young boy, not so kind as a teenage boy and going into manhood. Because it was so kind and sweet, it was only 79 cents. My mother thought, my son must be close to death. Or he's hit his head, something's happened. What have you done with my boy? That one pattern began to change me. I don't know what it did for my mother and father. I wrote a nice card to my dad on Father's Day. I don't know what, dads, you can't give him a 79-cent plant. I don't know what I did. But I blew him away too. Not in the size of the gift, but that I said anything positive, anything kind at all. And they didn't know I was beginning on my first pattern change. I threw out the dishonor and started honoring my mother and father. I ended up doing some pretty good things. But it changed my life because all of a sudden it changed how I thought, not just about my mom and dad, but about my boss, about people I worked around. I noticed my life was just totally empty of honoring anybody else. My life was empty of me receiving any honor, and that hurt me. But I noticed as I gave my mom and dad honor, I hadn't given anybody else. I didn't thank the teachers who had helped me. I didn't thank the boss who helped me. I didn't honor anybody. So changing one thing, I began to look for ways to give honor instead of dishonor. Changed my life. Am I the best at it? No, I don't think so. But I've got a PhD in honor compared to what I was in 1975. See, one pattern change. It changed my relationship at work. It changed my relationship with my friends. It changed it changed everything. You change one pattern. One pattern. You throw one pattern out. My pattern it wasn't dishonor. It was just no honor. I just didn't give anybody any honor. Man, you're okay. If you did something well, that's your job. That's what you're paid for. But I wanted honor. Well, if you want honor, you got to give it. You got to sow it. You got to share it. You be the one that plants it. But see that one pattern change. One. Now let me tell you about a different pattern change, and that's self-discipline. And the Bible has a saying. It says, "Everything is permissible. Not everything is profitable." If you change one thing and say, I'm only going to start doing for the rest of my life what profits me instead of what I can get away with, because just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. Do things that are intentionally good, intentionally positive, intentionally helpful, instead of, well, you start seeing the oak tree in the acorns in your life. More than likely, every opportunity you have right now or in the next 72 hours are going to be nothing but acorns. They just won't look like much. But if you start adjusting your eyes and start looking for acorns that can turn into oak trees, this poor thing, I feel badly for it. I'm not sure I said it last week, but after a while I'm going to have to go plant this and get another one, because the more I talk about it, the more I see this thing was designed by God to become an oak tree, but somebody has to plant it. There's talents in you, there's abilities in you, but you've got to. Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? I have a friend who has a professional quality singing voice. She is so good. And I was talking to her, I think just 2 days ago, saying, have you ever desired to do an album? Now, I don't know if she'll ever sell 10 records, but she has a good enough voice to make a recording. And it's so unique, it just doesn't sound like anybody else. And she said, I've dreamt of that my whole life, but now it's too late. I said, why? Are you going to have vocal cord surgery? What's going on? She goes, no, I'm too old. What's too old? When somebody tells you too old, well, tell me what the age is. If you're going to run for political office, you have to be a certain age to run for the United States House of Representatives, and a different age for the Senate, and a different age to run for the president. But you're not too old. I can't remember who was running against Ronald Reagan. I can't. But they brought up in the debate, Governor Reagan, what about your age? And he said, I will not allow the youthfulness of my opponent to be brought in. And it made his opponent break up and start laughing. Well, if you can get your opponent to laugh in a presidential debate, you've won that debate. Who told you you're too old, or too slow, or too this, or too that? Stop it. I told you last week, dropped my acorn. I told you last week about the young man I know just a little bit, who always wanted to be in the military, but he was always just a little bit overweight. And he'd go to the gym and he'd try diets, but when he got a job working as a delivery man for one of these delivery companies, he had to start going faster. And he'd come home and say, man, I'm worn out. I got to get in better shape. When he went to the gym, there was one of his bosses from the same delivery company. He said, look, let me show you the exercises you're going to need to succeed in this company. Well, after a year and a half of working like that and working for the company, this guy is in terrific shape. So the dream he had of always being in some branch of special forces, the doors are wide open to him because he changed one pattern. He always worked out, but his goal was, this delivery job is going to kill me unless I change. He wasn't thinking of what he really wanted to do, but he changed the pattern. Guess what? That opened a door to power and possibilities, and now he has options. Which branch of the military? I believe his job is even offering him great advancement if he wants. He went from no options to options everywhere because he changed one pattern, one habit. And so here's the one to work on today, and that's self-discipline. Don't wait for somebody to make you do something. You go do it. You do it. You can do it. Self-discipline, if you exercise self-discipline in the arena where you want to change, where you want to grow, where you want to break through, you're going to be more than your enemies ever thought you could be. You're going to be more than your best supporter, your mom, your dad, yourself. That was in you? That was just by saying, I'm going to do, no one's going to make me do it. If I've got to get up early and work out, if I've got to read more, if I've got to get 2 more degrees, whatever it is I've got to do, don't wait for somebody to make you do it. Listen, in life, certain things, if you don't do, somebody will come along and make you do it. I have another friend, he was always on the chunky side, but he went through some hurtful, harmful, personal things in his life. And before you know it, I think he was close to 400, maybe over 400 pounds. And he'd try this diet, he'd try that diet. Finally, the doctor said, well, if you don't do this, you're going to die as a young man. That was all the motivation he needed. I believe he has dropped over 100 pounds. He's off almost every one of his medications because what was always in him, the self-discipline, he just needed motivation. And the doctor saying, you're going to die, was all the motivation he needed. Here's your motivation. Don't you want to have more than you've ever had? Don't you want to do things you've never done? Don't you want to go someplace where you've never gone? Well, you're going to have to break off those limitations. And it starts by changing a pattern. You discipline yourself. You get up early. You go to bed on time. I've got another friend who fell into, he was preparing, but he didn't realize he was preparing for this possibility, fell into a great job, but it starts early in the morning. This guy was the consummate night owl. He never went to bed before 1 or 2. Well, he had to be at work at 6, not get up at 6, be at work at 6. He was waking up at 4:30. Well, you go to bed at 1 or 2 and wake up at 4:30, it won't be very long before you have all sorts of problems. Now, if I call this guy, I got to call him before 7 o'clock at night as he prepares himself he prepares himself before he goes to bed for his next day. That's self-discipline. When you take a night owl, when you take a carouser, he didn't think life started until the sun went down. Now now with the time change, he's in bed, but before he could be in bed an hour or 2 in the summertime, he'd be in bed asleep an hour or 2 before the sun went down. But he had an opportunity to do something. He said he changed one pattern. One. And that's the whole point of this program. I'm Stephen Peterson. The program's called Patterns for Progress. I'd love to hear from you. To get a hold of me, you got to email me. Don't have a phone number, but you can email me at patternsforprogress@gmail.com. And I'm telling you, by the next program, I'll have at least 1, if not 2 announcements about some things that I wanted to do, but I kept putting off. Because procrastination is the biggest enemy of progress. This one's just free. Procrastination is the biggest enemy of progress in your life. Do what you can do today. Maybe it's not everything you want to do. Maybe it's not, this is just not what, but get something done today. Do something today. When it's in your power to do something good for somebody else or yourself, do it today. Don't put it off. Do it today. Email me today, patternsforprogress@gmail.com. I'm Stephen Peterson, and I'm telling you, all around you are acorns of possibilities. 1, you got to see them. And 2, you're going to have to change your pattern in your life. You're going to have to get rid of one pattern that didn't make any, it's just not making any progress. It's not bringing any benefits. Put in a new pattern, and you'll have breakthrough. It'll even be better. I'm telling you, it's going to be better than what you dreamed or hoped for. I'm Stephen Peterson. Thank you for joining me. Looking forward to seeing you next week on Patterns for Progress.